They came from the stars with godlike weapons and a 1,000-year plan to enslave us. They vaporized cities, silenced governments, and broadcast their demands in every tongue. But they made one mistake. They didn't kill us all in the first strike. And if history has taught us anything, it's this: when you give a human time to bleed, you also give them time to load. Now, the Galactic Empire is gone. And Earth? Earth is still standing, with blood on its knuckles and fire in its eyes. They called it Operation Divine Leash, as if the name alone would make Earth heal. 1,000 ships emerged above the ionosphere like steel insects, wings spread across the sky, engines purring with arrogance. No warning. No parley. Just light. Red, violent light. New Delhi disappeared first, erased in silence. Shanghai followed. Sao Paulo collapsed into flame. Global communications died under static before anyone could scream. Satellites melted in orbit. The world blinked and burned in the same breath. And from deep underground, the old generals whispered to each other what they hadn't dared say in public. It was happening. The day they laughed off as paranoid fiction was here, and Earth was not ready. But humans never were. Not when the Mongols came. Not when the nukes dropped. Not when the plagues swept through the alleys. Read history. It was always the same. They'd fall, and then they'd rise with something sharper. The Empire transmitted a message in 12,000 languages. A universal offer. Submit, and be elevated. Resist, and be extinguished. The feed cut off before the final syllable. Earth didn't reply with a declaration or a speech. Just one word buried in a transmission code so old it hadn't been used since the Solar Civil War. Awaken. In an underground vault beneath Greenland, Mara Kincaid heard the ping echo through rusted steel. It jolted her from her sleep, not that she really slept anymore. She hadn't heard that code word in 26 years. It was buried with her reputation, locked away with her exile. They had called her a fearmonger, paranoid, broken by war. She'd warned them a day like this would come. They had laughed. Demoted her. Stripped her of command. She walked barefoot through the cold hallway, dust crunching beneath her soles. A synthetic voice greeted her with chilling calm. Project Godburn authorization confirmed. Tactical control reinstated. Kincaid cracked her neck and pulled the bandage from her wrist. The old war chip embedded in her bones hummed to life. She'd burned her rank once, but Earth had a long memory, and an even longer grudge. Her voice rasped into the mic. Get me Helix. Get me Calvo. Get me the ones you swore you'd never use again. In an abandoned mine in Siberia, a man with metal lungs coughed himself awake. In the Mariana Trench, an AI sealed behind failsafes began rewriting its own code. In Nairobi, a child with neurosymbiotic implants hacked into a Zalzer Scout drone and flew it into its own mothership before laughing himself unconscious. Kincaid watched it all happen in real time from a dusty terminal older than the Empire itself. Earth wasn't fighting back. It was reacting, like a body pushing out a splinter. Her comm crackled. It was Helix's voice filtered through 6 firewalls. You really did it. You brought me back in. You said you wanted to die fighting something worthy, Kincaid said. I said that before I met my second ex-wife. You'll find her soul in orbit if we don't move fast. Charming, Helix muttered. What's the plan? Kincaid's eyes sharpened. No plan. Just war. The kind we were built for. The Empire's fleets began their descent in phases, organizing civilian containment zones. That was their first mistake, believing Earth had civilians. In the mountains of Afghanistan, tribes wired stolen laser rifles to goats. In Poland, underground bunkers erupted with modified mining mechs turned walking tanks. In Kansas, retired engineers built EMP bombs out of wind turbines and prayer. They underestimated chaos. The Empire had tactics. Earth had trauma. Kincaid's group hit first. A converted suborbital shuttle disguised as a decommissioned cargo barge punched through a formation of Zalzer scouts and detonated in a burst of electromagnetic radiation. It fried 17 ships and a quarter of the Empire's uplink nodes in under 2 minutes. It wasn't the damage that shocked them, it was the intent. No surrender, no bargaining chip. Just murder. She patched into the enemy frequency mid-battle. I hope you've got backup plans, because we just spent 50 years getting bored and clever. You're not facing warriors. You're facing hobbyists with internet access and grudges. The transmission went silent for 10 seconds. Then static. Then screaming. In orbit, one of the dreadnoughts fired on Moscow. The beam collapsed just before hitting atmosphere. Earth's orbital tether system had rerouted the strike into a magnetic loop, bouncing the energy across 3 satellites and sending it spiraling into the Pacific. That satellite array was never meant for defense. But humans had been upgrading it for years, because they knew peace was a joke with bad timing. By the end of the day, the Empire had lost 8% of its invading force to what their reports called unaccountable irregular anomalies. Earth called them neighbors. Kincaid met with her team in an abandoned bunker in what used to be Wyoming. Calvo, once a weapons theorist turned criminal, now built mind implants from discarded Empire hardware. Helix commanded a drone fleet made from repurposed agricultural bots. Even the child hacker, real name Juno, sat at the table, translating enemy signals using a toy keyboard and neural ink drawn into her skin. Kincaid looked at them all. We're not a government. We're not a chain of command. We're not even soldiers. Calvo nodded. We're a mistake they can't afford. They thought they were ending a war before it started. Helix muttered. They forgot we write history, Juno said. And we never write it in pencil. Kincaid grinned. Her eyes were glass now, but the fire behind them was all her. Good. Let's give the stars something to remember. That night, across the wreckage of shattered cities and ash-choked fields, Earth howled. Not in grief. In fury. Rage isn't logical, and neither is vengeance. But it moves faster than diplomacy, and cuts deeper than justice. The Empire didn't understand why Earth hadn't surrendered yet. By the time they realized humans weren't defending the planet, they were preparing to invade back. It was already too late. Because Earth doesn't break. It waits. And then it kills. The streets of what used to be Chicago were quiet now, not the calm quiet of peace, but the tense, breath-held silence of a battlefield awaiting chaos. Mara Kincaid crouched behind the charred wreckage of a city bus, its twisted frame a makeshift shelter, listening intently to the subtle hum of approaching drones. Beside her, Helix was busy recalibrating a modified pulse rifle, the neon blue display casting ghostly shadows across his worn face. Thought you'd retired? Mara whispered sharply, scanning the shadows. Helix chuckled dryly. Retirement's overrated. Just boring peace until you die slowly. She grinned despite herself. Well, boredom's not an issue anymore. In a nearby alley, Calvo was hunched over an open crate, assembling something crude yet effective, explosives fashioned from recycled alien tech, wires spilling chaotically from his scarred fingers. 10 seconds to company. Juno's voice chirped sharply through their comms. She was safely underground, watching every inch of the city through a hacked surveillance grid. Mara checked her weapon, the weight comforting in her grip. Positions. Nobody moves until I signal. Let's make them regret every inch of ground. The drones arrived silently, sleek and predatory, gliding effortlessly over the devastated asphalt. Their sensors pulsed, seeking heat and life. But humans had learned quickly, cold suits masked their presence, rigged by desperate mechanics and scientists in underground labs. Mara waited, heart beating slowly in practiced rhythm, eyes locked onto the enemy. She clicked her comm softly, signaling the others. 3, 2, 1. Calvo activated his makeshift bombs remotely. The alley erupted violently, the drones caught mid-flight, their elegant frames shattering like glass. A chaotic symphony of sparks and smoke filled the air, debris raining down. Immediately, another wave of drones surged forward from behind, the Empire's tactics predictable yet relentless. Move! Mara shouted, her voice steady, clear, and ruthless. They erupted from cover like ghosts, agile, quick, precise. Helix fired his pulse rifle in rapid bursts, each shot cleanly destroying an approaching drone. Mara sprinted forward, dodging flaming wreckage, firing rounds into the airborne swarm. Calvo moved methodically, placing smaller charges beneath destroyed vehicles, setting traps designed specifically for the predictable tactics of their enemies. But predictability faded quickly. A heavy mechanical roar echoed down the street. The air grew thicker, oppressive. Mara spun toward the noise, adrenaline surging. "Imperial walkers!" Helix warned sharply. The first walker emerged from behind ruined skyscrapers, a massive metal beast bristling with weapons, energy cores pulsing beneath thick armor plates. It aimed directly toward Mara's team, charging its heavy cannons. "We're outgunned," Calvo growled, his voice tense. "We're always outgunned," Mara shot back sharply. "That's never stopped us before." Juno's voice broke into the comms, panicked for the first time. "You need to fall back. More units incoming!" Mara glanced at her allies, each face hardened, determined. "We hold here. We stop them here." Calvo cursed under his breath, readying his last explosive. Helix nodded, grimly determined. "If we die today, at least we gave them hell first." The walkers' cannons hummed loudly, charging with terrifying inevitability. Mara met the looming enemy with defiant eyes. Humanity had faced giants before, each seeming unstoppable, unbeatable. Yet history favored the reckless and bold, those willing to push beyond impossible odds. "Juno, give me a weakness!" Mara snapped urgently. "Energy coupling at the rear left leg, heavily armored but exposed at joint," Juno replied quickly. Mara turned swiftly. "Helix, flank left. Calvo, distract its targeting systems." Helix sprinted, weaving between falling debris, shots barely missing him as he moved swiftly around the walker's side. Calvo activated a high-frequency jammer, sending chaotic interference into the walker's targeting system. It hesitated, briefly confused, just enough time. Helix slid beneath the massive beast, firing concentrated bursts at the exposed joint. The walker groaned and faltered slightly, but stood firm. "Not enough." Mara clenched her jaw. "It's reinforced!" Helix shouted over roaring engines. "It's not going down!" Mara didn't hesitate. She bolted forward, diving behind fallen rubble, her mind racing with solutions. "Calvo, overload one of your charges. We'll force it down." "That's suicide," Calvo growled. "It's an order," Mara commanded sharply. "Do it." Calvo complied, setting his largest explosive directly beneath the walker. He ran, heart pounding, breaths ragged as the charge ignited. A thunderous blast filled the street, shaking the ground violently. The walker stumbled awkwardly, collapsing heavily onto its side. Mara sprang forward, climbing onto the fallen machine, prying open its emergency hatch. Inside, an alien pilot stared up in shock and terror, unprepared for human ferocity. "You attacked the wrong planet," Mara growled coldly. "Tell your masters this. Earth will never kneel." She dispatched the pilot swiftly and leaped clear as the walker detonated in a massive fireball. Smoke and flame billowed upward, painting a fiery warning into the sky. Silence returned momentarily, until the distant roar of engines announced further Empire reinforcements. "We need extraction," Calvo shouted breathlessly. "Already on it." Juno's voice crackled through comms. A battered hovercraft descended swiftly nearby, patched together from pieces of enemy vessels, piloted remotely by Juno from her bunker. Mara, Calvo, and Helix climbed aboard hastily, weapons still at the ready as they lifted clear of the smoldering battleground. Helix exhaled deeply, sweat mixing with grime on his face. "Is this victory?" Mara looked down at the burning remains of the battlefield, eyes narrowed, voice filled with steel. "This is resistance. Victory comes when every one of them is ashes." Calvo gave a grim nod. "We're ready." The hovercraft rose higher, racing toward hidden strongholds. Below, flames danced defiantly amid ruins, a testimony not just to Earth's ability to endure but to its unyielding will to strike back. As the Empire's ships regrouped, Cautious for the first time, Mara smiled bitterly. Let them fear humanity. Let them see exactly what they'd awakened. She spoke quietly, almost to herself. We're just getting started. Mara Kincaid watched the data scroll across the cracked monitor, her breath catching sharply in her chest. The lines of code twisted and merged, revealing a secret buried beneath layers of encrypted alien text. Her heartbeat echoed in the quiet bunker as the revelation sank in. They weren't here to conquer, she whispered, the realization piercing her thoughts with cold precision. They came here to harvest us. Behind her, Helix dropped the tool he'd been using, the metallic clang echoing through the concrete chamber. Harvest? His voice trembled with restrained fury. You mean we're cattle? Mara nodded grimly, eyes fixed on the information flooding the screen. Our DNA, it's something they've lost, something ancient. They're after our genes. They've done it before, creating obedient slaves from stolen human code centuries ago. We weren't their target, just their raw material. Calvo's scarred face hardened, fists tightening around a twisted scrap of alien tech. So we fight, bleed, and die not because they fear us, but because we're valuable merchandise? Not merchandise, Mara corrected fiercely, pivoting sharply to face her companions. Tools. They've forgotten we're anything else. Helix slammed his fist against the cold wall, frustration etched into his voice. They underestimated us. They see numbers, statistics. They've forgotten what humans become when pushed against extinction. Exactly, Mara said, determination carving sharp lines across her face. But now, we strike differently. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about showing them their arrogance was their fatal mistake. Calvo raised a brow, skepticism shadowing his expression. How exactly do we do that, Mara? They've already glassed half our cities. We use their own weapon against them, information. She replied swiftly, urgency lacing her tone. If we broadcast the truth across their entire network, every slave they've created will know they're more human than alien. Chaos will spread faster than their fleet can contain. Juno's voice interrupted over the comm channel, sharp and tense. I can broadcast the data, but it's suicide. Their security will hunt us the instant we transmit. Mara met Calvo's defiant gaze steadily. We knew what we signed up for. There's no turning back. Calvo's shoulders relaxed subtly, acceptance edging out the doubt in his eyes. Then let's remind these invaders just how dangerous humans can be. In the brief silence that followed, Mara tapped commands rapidly into the terminal. Prepare the transmission. We're going global. Let every captive race know they are brothers and sisters, not products. Helix nodded slowly, gripping his rifle tighter. It's time the Empire tasted real rebellion. Juno spoke again, softly resolute. Ready to transmit in 60 seconds? Each second felt stretched, pregnant with possibility. The digital countdown raced downward. Mara inhaled slowly, steadying herself for the storm to come. At 0, a surge of data flowed from their hidden base, slicing through alien defenses, cascading across the Empire's controlled planets, shattering the illusion of control they built meticulously for centuries. Within moments, encrypted Empire transmissions erupted into panic-stricken confusion. Mara listened intently, relishing their distress. Reports flooding in, Juno said breathlessly. They're colonies. There are uprisings everywhere. The Empire's drones are being sabotaged from within. Mara exhaled deeply, grim satisfaction in her voice. Then it's working. Suddenly, alarms blared through their own comm systems. Helix's eyes darted rapidly across the security feed. They traced the signal. Enemy squads inbound, ETA 2 minutes. Calvo rose calmly, weapon primed. We made our point. Time to move. Mara swiftly grabbed her gear, giving a final, lingering glance at the flickering terminal screen, the silent instrument of their revenge. They raced up through hidden tunnels, footsteps echoing urgently through the darkness. They emerged into twilight, the sky scarred with smoke trails and fire. Hovercraft bearing the Empire's sigil loomed menacingly overhead, searchlights slicing through the dusk. Mara led her team forward through rubble-strewn streets, moving swiftly and silently from shadow to shadow. Juno's voice remained steady in their ears. Route clear ahead. Extraction point is 3 blocks west. Move fast. They sprinted through shattered alleys, weaving deftly around debris, lungs burning as adrenaline surged. A burst of enemy fire scorched the pavement near Mara's feet. She twisted instinctively, firing back with precision that spoke of years honed in combat. The Empire's forces closed rapidly, their sleek, armored forms filling the streets. Calvo tossed a makeshift explosive, sending them scattering amidst flames and shrapnel. Helix covered Mara's flank, firing steadily, his movements fluid and precise. As they reached the extraction point, a battered vehicle roared to life, engines thrumming roughly. Mara and her companions leaped aboard, weapons blazing to hold their pursuers at bay. The vehicle lurched upward, engines straining against the weight, clearing rooftops by inches. Below, the Empire's forces regrouped swiftly, preparing to retaliate. But even in retreat, humanity had already struck a blow deeper than any conventional attack could achieve. Across worlds, rebellion surged, unstoppable now that the truth was known. Mara watched from the viewport, flames reflecting in her eyes. They'll never regain control. Every world they enslaved is awake now. Calvo slumped against the cabin wall, weary but resolute. You really think we sparked something big enough to topple them? She turned to him fiercely, conviction burning bright in her gaze. When you deny people their humanity, they'll tear down your empire brick by brick. We just reminded billions that they were stolen. Trust me, this is just the start. Helix chuckled weakly, adjusting his bandaged hand. Never thought rebellion would feel this satisfying. Mara managed a tight smile, resolve crystallizing in her voice. This wasn't rebellion. It was revelation. Their biggest mistake was thinking we wouldn't fight back. Juno's voice returned, stronger than ever, broadcasting openly across all comm channels. This is humanity speaking to every soul the Empire chained. Rise. Resist. Remind your masters who you are. Humanity is not a resource, it is freedom itself. In that battered craft, suspended between destruction below and stars above, Mara felt the tide shift irrevocably. The Empire had sought to enslave humanity but inadvertently awakened an unstoppable force, raw and relentless, burning brighter than the suns themselves. And now, that force was unleashed across 1,000 worlds. As the horizon filled with stars, Mara allowed herself a fleeting moment of triumph. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its defiant spirit, a flame impossible to extinguish, destined to burn brightest against those who believed themselves gods. And tonight she knew those false gods would burn. Mara Kincaid's knuckles whitened as the commandeered dreadnought shuddered beneath her feet. Her pulse quickened, not from fear, but the thrill of an impossible gamble. Helix, his jaw clenched tightly, piloted the hulking vessel toward Voronezh, heart of the Empire. Their trajectory, a reckless spear through enemy defenses, had triggered alarms throughout the alien fleet. They see us, Helix announced calmly, eyes locked forward. Intercept fighters deploying. Let them come, Calvo growled, fingers dancing across the weapons console. We'll punch straight through. The dreadnought rumbled violently as energy blasts exploded across its reinforced hull. Mara watched enemy fighters swarm like angry hornets, their weapons blazing relentlessly. Juno, tell me we have shields. Mara barked into her communicator. Juno's voice came through strained but clear. Barely holding, 2 more minutes until planetary approach. Brace yourselves. Explosions echoed around them, lighting the interior like flashes of lightning. Mara steadied herself, feeling each strike resonate deeply within the ship's metal bones. Calvo, keep firing. Helix, increase thrust, no matter the risk. Helix nodded, his eyes hardened with grim determination. Full burn. Everyone hold tight. Acceleration slammed them backward. Mara gripped the control panel, vision narrowing against the oppressive G-forces. Through the viewport, Voronezh loomed large, emerald skies clouded by warships now frantically mobilizing to halt their suicidal charge. 30 seconds. Helix shouted through gritted teeth. Mara steadied her breath, each heartbeat a measured countdown. They weren't here to conquer or to win. They were here to break something the Empire believed unbreakable. Suddenly, the dreadnought punched into the planet's upper atmosphere, its hull ablaze with friction, carving a molten scar across alien skies. The Imperial Citadel loomed ahead, a sprawling fortress glittering ominously beneath a pale sun. "Impact in 10 seconds, Calvo reported steadily. "Last chance to bail out." "We finish this," Mara stated sharply, leaving no room for argument. The dreadnought crashed violently through the Citadel's outer walls, rupturing structures, crushing defenses beneath its unstoppable momentum. The vessel skidded to a halt, embedded deeply within enemy territory, smoking wreckage and debris marking their destructive entry. Mara and her team moved swiftly, weapons raised, senses heightened by adrenaline. Alien guards charged forward desperately, confusion and panic clear in their alien eyes. Calvo opened fire without hesitation, efficiently clearing a path forward. "They're not expecting a fight here," he observed grimly. "Their arrogance makes them vulnerable." Mara nodded, focused entirely ahead. "Then let's remind them of humility." They navigated quickly through the smoke-filled corridors, Juno's guidance clear in their ears. "Central core's ahead. But be careful, their defenses are coming online." Ahead, immense blast doors began sealing shut. Helix sprinted forward, sliding beneath the narrowing gap. "Move fast!" he shouted urgently. Mara and Calvo followed immediately, barely making it through as the doors slammed shut with a deafening metallic crash. Inside, the heart of the Empire revealed itself, a towering crystalline structure humming with raw, sentient energy. "This is the Divine Core," Mara breathed, awed despite herself. Suddenly, a voice spoke, not audibly, but within their minds, an invasive presence resonating through their very thoughts. "You cannot win here, humans," it intoned, cold and commanding. "Your efforts only delay the inevitable." Mara tightened her grip on her weapon, fury rising sharply within her. "We've heard that before. Your empire ends today." The voice echoed softly, almost amused. "Your defiance is meaningless. Humanity was designed to serve. You are mere echoes of our brilliance." Helix laughed bitterly, defiance sharp in his voice. "You've never understood humanity at all. Our strength lies precisely in our defiance." The core pulsed angrily, crystalline structure shifting colors violently. "Your insolence has sealed your fate. Prepare for assimilation." Suddenly, overwhelming pressure enveloped them, their thoughts clouded, memories twisted, the core attempting to forcibly integrate their consciousness. Mara fought desperately, her identity flickering under the immense strain. "Don't give in," Calvo growled fiercely, resistance clear even as his voice strained. "We are human. We bend to no one." Mara closed her eyes tightly, forcing clarity from chaos, her mind fixating on humanity's indomitable resilience. "Juno, upload the Godburn virus now." "Uploading." Juno's strained voice echoed faintly. The core trembled violently, its invasive presence suddenly faltering as humanity's chaotic essence flooded its consciousness, a torrent of pain, love, rage, poetry, and madness. The core recoiled, confusion rippling through its structure. "What is this?" it demanded desperately. Mara stepped forward boldly, voice resonating with unshakable conviction. "This is humanity. This is freedom, defiance, and chaos, everything you sought to erase." The core convulsed violently, crystalline structure fracturing visibly. "You destroy yourselves. You embrace disorder willingly?" "We embrace life," Mara answered coldly. "And your order was nothing but chains." An ear-splitting shatter filled the chamber, as fractures raced through the crystal core. Mara and her team were thrown backward by the force. The core's light dimmed rapidly, flickering chaotically before erupting in a blinding flash of energy. In the aftermath, silence settled heavily around them. Mara rose slowly, pain searing through her battered body. Calvo and Helix stirred beside her, groaning softly. The core lay shattered, its crystalline shards scattered lifelessly across the chamber floor. Calvo exhaled shakily. Did we just kill a god? Helix chuckled painfully, holding his side. We reminded a false god that humanity bows to no one. Mara stood tall, surveying the destruction with a hard-earned satisfaction. The Empire falls with this core. Across every world, their power is broken. Now what? Calvo asked cautiously, exhaustion evident in his voice. Mara's expression softened slightly, eyes reflecting quiet determination. Now we rebuild, not as slaves or pawns, but as survivors who've shown the galaxy humanity's truth. Their calm crackled faintly, Juno's relieved voice breaking through. Reports flooding in. The Empire's ships are retreating. Rebellions are erupting everywhere. Mara allowed herself a faint smile. They tried to silence us, Juno. But humanity's voice echoes louder now than ever. Helix nodded slowly, pride clear despite pain. They feared our potential. Now they've experienced it firsthand. Mara stepped forward decisively, leading them from the ruins, determination steady in her stride. The Empire believed it was eternal, untouchable. But every empire built on chains eventually collapses. The team moved silently together, stepping through the shattered remnants of false divinity. Above them, the sky cleared, stars visible once more, symbols of hope and freedom reclaimed. The Empire's reign had ended, not by force alone, but through humanity's enduring defiance. Debris still floated in orbit when Mara Kincaid finally emerged into the thin morning air, her boots grinding down the ruined flagstones of what had been the Empire's holiest ground. She moved quietly, her movements deliberate, careful not to disturb the scattered shards of the shattered divine core. Her breath lingered in the chill, but her thoughts were aflame. Down the battered ramp, Helix leaned against a broken pillar, staring at the distant horizon as smoke curled upward from the wreckage. Calvo moved among the splinters, retrieving pieces of alien tech, his expression unreadable. They had done the impossible and, in doing so, changed the trajectory of 1,000 worlds. Juno's voice filtered in, threaded with static, but unshaken. Empire comms are in total chaos. Reports from 9 systems, every world in revolt. Their fleets are running. Helix let out a slow breath. Do you think they know what just happened? That the gods they worshipped were just code, and that code is gone. Mara glanced upward. The sky above Voronezh had once been a living lattice of ships and shields. Now it was fractured, the grid lines of control burned away by humanity's defiance. They'll understand soon enough, she replied, voice hard but edged with something gentler, a kind of awe. You can't hold an empire together with fear once you show the universe how to break the chains. Calvo approached, his eyes still shadowed by exhaustion. You said we'd rebuild? But do we even know what comes next? Mara considered the question, feeling the weight of every death, every uprising, every desperate gamble. We'll have to find out together. No scripts, no gods, no more chains. Juno broke in again, a little breathless, clearly multitasking. I'm patching into rebel channels across half the galaxy. People are singing Earth's name, some as a warning, some as a prayer. But everywhere they're rising. A hint of a smile crossed Mara's lips. We didn't just kill the Empire. We woke up everyone it put to sleep. A signal crackled on the emergency frequency, Imperial code, desperate and raw. A Zalzir officer's voice, once so sure, now trembled with disbelief. To any who receive, why did you do this? You could have ruled. You could have inherited eternity. Helix took the radio and responded, his tone even, almost kind. We didn't want to rule. We wanted to live free. There's nothing you could offer we wouldn't have to kill to keep. A pause, then another question from the defeated commander, almost childlike. What are you going to do with what's left? Mara spoke, steady as iron. We'll leave the past behind. If you want peace, lay down your weapons. If you want revenge, come and learn what it costs. Another voice entered the channel, this time, a shaky human one from a distant, newly liberated moon. Are we safe now? Mara pressed the transmitter close. We're not safe. We're never safe. That's what makes us human. We're not defined by safety, but by what we're willing to risk for freedom. The survivors gathered around, a ragged circle. Calvo, still wary, Helix, steady as ever, Juno, somewhere out in the tangled networks, their voices weaving together. Each of them bore scars the Empire could never catalogue. They were survivors by design, rebels by necessity, and now, for the first time, authors of their own future. They watched as the remains of the Empire's fleet burned in the upper atmosphere, streaks of light against the breaking dawn. Around them, the ruins sang with new voices, liberated beings discovering themselves for the first time in centuries. Children ran in places where soldiers had once marched. Songs echoed in every language. The world had changed and would keep changing, for the better or the worse, but now, at least, it belonged to its people. Helix turned to Mara, voice low. You know they'll tell stories about us. Make us monsters or martyrs. Mara shrugged, eyes on the horizon. Let them. We never fought for glory. We fought because we were cornered and refused to die quietly. A rumble of laughter rose from Calvo. I'll settle for never seeing another Imperial patrol as long as I live. Juno's voice chimed in, bright for the first time. Incoming message. Not Empire, someone calling themselves the Accord. They want to talk. About peace, about rebuilding. Looks like we started something bigger than even you imagined, Mara. She stood silent for a moment, shoulders tense, then let herself breathe out. Then let's talk. Let's see if we can build something better from the ashes. We owe it to everyone who fell. The transmission shifted again, now crowded with voices from dozens of worlds. Some spoke with anger, some with wonder, but all carried the undercurrent of hope. A final Empire loyalist sent one last warning, a fading growl over the frequency. You will be remembered for this, for what you destroyed. Mara keyed the mic, her voice steady as stone. Then let them remember. Tell your children what happens when you threaten humanity. Tell them we're stubborn, unpredictable, and impossible to break. Tell them we remember everything. And if you ever come again, tell them what waits for you here. As the sun rose, Mara looked over the fractured landscape, a place of ruin, but also of renewal. She felt the ache of everything lost, but she also felt something she hadn't in years: hope, raw and unguarded. Around her, the survivors stood together, battered but alive, faces turned toward the uncertain light. Earth had answered violence with fire and was left standing, not as conqueror, but as a warning. In the emptiness left behind by shattered gods, humanity had found its own purpose: to endure, to fight, and when necessary, to burn down empires so the next generation could rebuild in peace. The galaxy would never forget the day the Empire fell, or the stubborn species that made it possible. And Mara Kincaid, with ashes on her boots and a grim, tired smile, knew the future, whatever it brought, belonged to those willing to fight for it.